Irina, it really is a delight to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me on Mindful Leaders.
Thank you for inviting me, Lara. It's my honor to be here. Thank you.
March 2020. For me, it's a thrilling date because that's a time when HSBC appointed you as head of HSBC Armenia. And the reason why I say it's thrilling because it's the first time HSBC appointed an Armenian national for this position. And having you in this role only makes me very happy and encourages many women like myself. You've held leadership positions and you continue to do so, not just with the but also with the Insurance Foundation of Servicemen. You're the chairman of the board, chairperson of the board. You also are member of different executive and non-executive boards. We've heard so much about the word leadership, and it's such a very maybe overestimated word or theory. Tell me, for you, what makes a good leader? What are the qualities that you find are important for a person to be inspirational or motivational?
Yeah, thank you very much. In reality, as you say, I think the leadership, there are so many definitions of the leadership. I will probably mention a few things. Firstly, it's about inspiring people to achieve, work together and achieve a common goal. It's about knowing your own strengths and also weaknesses. We call them areas of development, and also of those of your team, and being able to navigate some of those and use some of those strengths to navigate the weaknesses in overcoming the challenges towards that common goal. To me, a good leader should be authentic. In a way you engage with people, but also in the way you use your authority. I think you need to communicate to people what matters to you, what's important, what you stand for, and communicate through your behaviors, but also through your words. Generally, I think the good leaders are good communicators. I think communication is so important. You can never, practice shows, you can never over-communicate. We usually under-communicate, and that sometimes creates uncertainties because it creates miscommunication, actually. Good leadership, what else? I think it's also, for me, about creating the psychological safety at work. And what I mean by that is then where people are feeling safe to speak up, to talk about things which matter to them, to challenge where they see the things going wrong, also to admit their mistakes without having a fear of being punished or embarrassed. And probably the last thing I will mention is the good leadership is also about being able to accept your own mistakes. And I mean, no one is perfect, we'll make mistakes, and it's the good leader should be able to accept the mistake, to learn from them. And then I think what's important, not to get destabilized, and sort of look forward and go ahead.
The Great Resignation. The Great Resignation is a term that was coined to describe the economic trend that flourished since COVID. Yeah. And they call it either the big quit, basically a big wave of people leaving or resigning or quitting their jobs because they find that they're looking for something more fulfilling, they're looking for advancement in their career, more flexibility, working remotely, and maybe more salary to commensurate their technical qualifications. Armenia has been hit not just by the Great Resignation, but also from the war. And because of that, there has been a big wave of turnover in many corporations. And I'm sure HSBC, in your company, in your bank, you've felt that as well. What do you do to attract the quality people that you need for your bank, for your corporation in Armenia? And what do you do to keep them once you have them?
Yeah, I think it hit, Armenia as well, but in a little bit in a different way, as you mentioned. It's the financial sector, I think, in Armenia years ago was quite an attractive one, while overseas in the more developed world, when I was sort of going abroad and visiting other countries for HSBC. The banking wasn't so popular, I would say, years ago already abroad. I think we are seeing that trend now in Armenia, where other sectors, and mainly I would say high-tech technology sector, is much more interesting, and it provides more flexibility, obviously, to people. Banking is a very regulated industry, so even if you try to be flexible, you can't compete in some aspects with let's say, the flexibility that IT companies can provide. So yes, obviously that we are impacted by that. I think the main thing that allows us to attract people and retain, though we do have the turnover as we discussed, is firstly the brand. I think it's the only international bank operating in the country. It's our values, and especially when people come, and even if they go, they always say that what sort of kept them and what they will never sort of forget is and they appreciate it a lot, the values of the organization, the way we interact with our people. We have a very sort of open culture. We always try and aim to create that psychological safety, as we say. We encourage people speaking up. So it's things which I'm talking about, the leadership, it's really come from the environment where I operate, and then that's why I'm saying it impacted me along the way throughout. So it's a variety of things, obviously also the benefits package and all of that, but it's not the most, I think, attractive. It's more about the people relationship that we try to do. We also now actually are aiming to introduce some of the flexibility. So after the COVID, so when COVID hit, we had around 90% of our people working from home. So we were able very quickly, and our technology allowed that, to move people away. Obviously, not people who were working in the branches, but the rest, they were able to work from home, and that provided a lot of flexibility to people. So initially there was a lot of actually resistance, because people, they didn't really want to work from home. Now then there was a resistance to come back. So but the balance is probably the best, because then people know that obviously depending on what they do, we are always there to serve the clients, so the client serving time need to be observed, and there should not be any delay in the client transactions. But people know that if they want to come a little bit later because they need to take their children to school, or then to compensate working a bit later, so we allow that. So we encourage a lot of flexibility at work, and I think from that perspective, we are probably quite different to many other, to banks as well. When I speak to my colleagues in the banking sector, I think we are probably unique. So we are obviously not as flexible as IT company can be, but we are trying to provide that to our employees.
World Bank states that about 55% to 60% of the labor force comprises of women, they're women. And but most of when I look at the statistics, obviously the numbers increase when you look at the entry-level positions of any kind of service. Entry-level, lower-paying jobs. Of course, you'll see more women in those positions, and the more you increase in the latter, obviously at the C-suite level, that percentage decreases. What do you see are still the stigmas and challenges that women face? And what do you think are necessary for women to actually reach those positions, those executive leadership positions?
Okay, yeah, thanks for the question. And I, as you can imagine, I get similar
I'm sure you get this question
quite often. And yes, you are right. I think probably now is around we have around 60%, I think 55, 60 girls graduating from the universities, but then as we reach the high level of the organization, probably 20% only maximum we have the women there. And I think it's not a secret that women need to it's more harder for us to reach certain level, because we also still, when we're talking about stigmas, still need to battle against the perceptions. And I mean, I'm fortunate enough to work for an organization when, I mean, it values the diversity. I really didn't have any issue at work from that perspective. But to be honest, in my earlier days of my career, when I started to progress, I did have that challenge in overcoming the market perception, because the financial sector is very much dominated by, and our business environment, by men. And it is still the case, and it took me some effort to, I would say, overcome that perception. And I think generally it's more difficult for women to ensure their opinions are heard and valued and appreciated. So you just need to put more effort. I think few things which worked for me. First of all, I think you need to disregard the stereotypes. And again, that's difficult. That easy to say, probably not difficult to do. And we need to understand and appreciate that women, there is no difference between women leader or men leader. And women create a lot of value. They need to appreciate their value and the value they create for the organization. And I think just accept that and be aware of that. I think what's also important is to have the role model and mentors. And the role models and mentors, they can change probably over time. But I think especially mentors as well, they do help you a lot. And I did have few really good leaders who helped me to overcome and create that confidence in my abilities. Speaking about confidence, be confident to speak up, and in this way, speak up in the meetings to show your expertise. So again, I think the difference between men and women, and that some researches also show, women need to be 100% sure in a subject to voice, or most of the women, right, to voice the opinion, or while I mean, men can voice them even if they are not so sure about the subject. So be confident in showing your expertise.
You say role model. I can't help but think also about your mother, Nunufar.
Yes.
Because Nunufar, she was a well-known architect. She was good at her profession. I think she worked at Yerevan Kids at the time. But at the same time, she was able to balance also her family life. And I remember you telling me how she was just everywhere. She was there for her work, but also there for her family. And I think there's this stigma to think that if you have a full-time career or profession, that means your family will be sacrificed, or something else will be sacrificed. So I see that maybe also there were certain things that your mother gave you. What were the key lessons that she gave you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and when people ask me who is your role model, I always, or very often, say it's my mom. Yes, absolutely. She was full-time, and like engineering construction, it's also more of a men-dominated business, and she was working full-time. But she was always there for us, for me and for my brother, it's everything. Yeah, now it's much easier in terms of things. Yeah, we buy more things, we order. At the time it was, and it's not just working and caring about us, but also it's baking, cooking. Everything, and even sewing, knitting, and this. All of that, yeah, during the Soviet time. So women were really, and it's just, I think the way she behaved, but also I think what's important when you say the lesson, she was always there for us, and she provided a lot of care and support and love, but also was demanding. So in terms of setting very high standards for me and my brother.
Do you know why? Why would she set such high standards and expectations for you to succeed, even though it wasn't necessarily said?
Yeah,
it was an unsaid kind of.
I think
value.
it's not so much about succeeding. I don't think she ever sort of thought that, oh, we need to become this and reach certain levels. It's about more being a good individual. I mean, from that perspective, I think setting the high standard just to ensure we achieve things in life. Again, it's not about being at certain level and it doesn't matter. It's about more of a being
the human being
part. Yeah.
So we spoke about Nunufar, your mother, very briefly, obviously, but I'm going to turn to your father, Karakin. He's a descendant of a very interesting family, very famous family, and they, I think from what I remember in Georgia, the Seylanov brothers. So the Seylanov family, correct me if I'm wrong, originally came from Kars, current-day Turkey. And in the 1800s, they moved to Georgia, where they had very large and well-known trading company and different services and different products. And they were well-known. I mean, they were very well-known. It's like the Montasho family. For me, it's also the Seylanov brothers. Tell me what it means to have this legacy of yours. You know, who were these people? Your great-grandfather was Artashes. He was part of the Seylanov brothers. What was their story and who were they?
Yeah, and thank you for the question. I think I always had the pride for my family and for my family's name as well. And it's actually a unique name. If you see anybody or meet anybody with this surname, it's just our family. So they, as you say, they were originally from Turkey, but they moved before the genocide, well before. They anticipated, I think, because things were not easy anyways those days, I mean, for people. So there were some signs, right? Well in advance.
You mean in Turkey?
In Turkey.
Yeah.
So probably they anticipated things. And so they moved end of the 19th century. And they set up this trading company, and in Tbilisi at the time, 6 brothers. Artashes was the youngest, and my
your great-grandfather.
Very successful, as you say. To be honest, and unfortunately, we don't know a lot about them, because then my grandparents, because obviously they lost, I mean, their assets were expropriated by Bolsheviks, and so my grandparents already were very careful and even scared probably to tell their children, like my dad, a lot of things about who they were, because they were afraid of being then punished by the Soviet regime. So we don't have, and then because all the documents also were expropriated as well. But it always gave me the pride. And it's still, and what's good and what's interesting is that in Tbilisi nowadays, so we used to have our family, that trading house, but also the family house, a big one in the center of Tbilisi, and it was built in 1911, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So in Georgia, in Tbilisi now, but the good thing is that the authorities, the government, they started refurbishing all those old buildings, which belonged mainly to Armenian famous families. So now that building is fully restored, and our name is on the building, and there are beautiful paintings. So they restored it in the way it was, and even the tour. There are tours being organized in old like Tbilisi, and people are being taken there just to show that sort of legacy which comes. One of my colleagues actually, without knowing my family sort of history, recently went to Tbilisi, and then she sent me the pictures because she was taken to that
historical
location with our name on that. Yeah, so that always a sense of pride. I think what also was interesting for me and probably resonates to myself now, as I said, we didn't have lots of documents, we have some. And my brother years ago, after the Soviet collapse, he started looking for some documents in the archives, in state archives. And he found some evidence or the documents of the family also providing a lot of support, like doing a lot of charity in to schools, to culture, and that's something that I'm quite passionate about. And again, as part of HSBC, we do a lot, especially for unprivileged education, kids, etc. So.
You're telling me the story, and a few things come to my mind. One is how you, when you went to the Tumanyan Museum through the HSBC Corporate Social Responsibility Project, you saw this picture where there's the famous Hovannes Tumanyan with a few other very famous Armenian leaders of the time, a black and white picture that was there. And there's Hovannes Tumanyan, there's Gulbenkian that's there, and also your great-grandfather Artsakh Seylanov also in this picture. So you have this obvious legacy of having very well-known and well-off family from your grandfather's side, but your grandmother, same again, your father's mother, also from Tbilisi, Eleonora, she didn't have that much of a, let's say, happy ending either, because her parents at a young age were exiled during Stalin's time. She also was from Tbilisi, but her parents at the age of 16, so she was orphaned, her and her brother. Tell me, what is this? What meaning do you make of these stories, both the positive and the negative? How does this actually come down to you? And have you thought about it? What this means for you?
Yes, I mean, generally I believe in genetic code, so I think those things do impact us as individuals. My grandmother, Eleanor, actually lived with us. I mean, we lived together, so she actually had quite a lot of impact on me as well, and she was giving me the story. So whatever I know about the family is mainly from her. Because my grandfather passed away when I was really young age. And yeah, these are two very different family stories, where then we're united in a single family. Firstly, I think what's important, as I mentioned already, it gives me a sense of pride, my family history. But also, I think what's important to always have in mind, and I really have that, is you need to appreciate things today because you can lose them tomorrow.
Just like they did, right? I mean,
yes, absolutely.
The Bolshevik Revolution took place. The Seylanov family also lost everything. Is that correct?
So and in my day-to-day life, I mean, it's a different thing. But even when I speak in the workplace as well, I always tell to my colleagues, appreciate what you have. Not that you need to stop there and get happy with, but appreciate and value what you have, because with that, and it's not about monetary, it's everything in life. Probably that much. It just.
So this reminds me, or makes me think of the 2020 war in Armenia, and you're right. We could lose things in a split second, and it's important to really appreciate what we have. How did you manage both personally and professionally? As you were newly appointed at HSBC. Here's this entire staff that you have, some of whom probably went to war. Some of whom probably lost either their brother or their father, but you can't just go business as usual. How did you actually navigate that as the CEO, as a colleague, and even as a mother?
Yeah, I think we all went through very, very difficult times, and as you say, especially when you are there, and it's not too much you can do. I mean, yeah, we all, I think of us, tried our best to help in a way we could. But we also needed to operate in a business as usual, because we needed to serve our clients, because we needed to, and the financial sector generally, and us in particular, needed to be there operating, providing that stability to our clients and to the country as well, because I think financial stability is very important, especially when things go wrong. So. irrespective of what was happening, as you say, we did have number of our colleagues who were conscripted. We obviously had our lady colleagues or brothers or sons or husbands were conscripted, so really, really difficult time. I think it's, and when I said also in the beginning about leading with authenticity, I think it's also important in that situation. That was, I was sort of, I think, trying to lead in that way, and always showing the respect, appreciation, understanding of different situations people were going through. We were having a lot of discussions. I think it was all about also communication, again, apart from doing things or trying to help, donations and help and the volunteering and all of that, most of our colleagues were doing. But to keep us united as well, we did a lot of communication at the time. So every week, and many were working in that remote regime still, because we were still in the COVID situation. So at least on the weekly basis, we arranged calls every week. We would have at least an hour or even more, a call for everybody to join, who wanted to join, who could join, to update on the situation, on how we as a bank navigate, what are the priorities at this point in time in terms of managing the business continuity. But also that was an opportunity for people to speak, just if they had questions, if they had concerns, if they had, and my message was always, we really need to operate in our country in a way also is relying on the financial sector in ensuring that stability. So by doing our day-to-day job, because people were saying, okay, we have the war there, what I'm doing here. We had many discussions like that with our employees.
Did it give a certain sense of purpose for them to feel like there's a sense of purpose? Because at a time like that, you lose all visibility of what meaning you can make from life. But I'm assuming this was...
Yeah, absolutely. The aim of discussions first was, again, to give the people the opportunity to speak and to share their concerns if they have. But also, yes, try to instill that sense of purpose, that by doing so, we are not, some people were feeling useless. Why I'm doing this, I don't know, financial transaction when somebody is dying at work. And you just try to explain that this is also something that is aimed as ensuring the stability of the country, and we need to be there to serve our clients. So, absolutely.
Thank you for that answer. I also think of you as the mother of a 3-year-old Tigran, the name of your grandfather, Seylanov Tigran. What legacy would you like to leave him? When you think of your raising him, you're a professional woman, but at the same time you're a very devoted mother. What is that legacy? And it's not a very easy question to ask, but I mean, what is that you want to instill?
Firstly, again, in terms of, I mentioned my mom was trying to instill the human qualities, and this is what I really want to instill in my son. Really, being the human being, individual. As obviously, I would like him to see growing professionally, etc. But in the first place, to me, it's important that he raised in a way that he is the right human being. I would like him to know his family history as well, and especially as he has the name of his grandparent, who was actually the founder of the grand-grandparent, Tigran Seylanov, was one of the oldest brother of the 6 Seylanov brothers, who actually founded the trade house, Seylanov Trade House. I obviously want him to live in a peaceful country and have a purposeful and meaningful life, feel fulfilled. Again, whatever he decides to do, I think that's the most important.
And finally, what motivates you? I mean, Is you wake up in the morning, you have to have a sense of purpose, or not you have to, but it's preferable. What motivates you the most?
Actually, very little things can motivate me, including just waking up, looking forward to waking up in the morning can motivate me. And then going to work, then looking forward to coming back home in the evening. This motivates me because, and when I say going to work happily, it doesn't mean that every day is easy and enjoyable at work, because obviously there are challenges. But the fact that you have the job, the fact that you create value, or you aim to create value, you develop, you learn things, in our case, we hope we create values for our clients, you develop others, help others to develop, that all of that motivates me, I think. In terms of both the purpose and meaning in life as well, it's just, to me, cherishing meaningful relationships, creating nice memories, really simple things, and enjoying the life generally. I think very simple things can make a lot of purpose in your life. I think quite often we don't see this, or don't appreciate what we have, and look for, big things to motivate us. To me, very simple.
Very simple, but very powerful. I think I agree with you. We tend to forego or be indifferent to the simple things, and then when we don't have that, then we kind of regret not having had that. So, thank you for being such a human leader. Thank you for being such an inspiration to so many women like myself. And thank you for taking the time to being with me and sharing such interesting thoughts and ideas. I wish you nothing but the best for 2023. Good luck with everything, Irina.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here, and generally to getting to know you. Thank you.
Thank you.